Welcome back to another MOTOBOB video, and this week we're looking at some fresh rumours for bikes that could be announced in 2025. BMW's CEO has been giving a few clues away on Instagram. Triumph have had another 800 models spied out testing. There's potentially another small to mid capacity adventure bike coming to the market, this time from Aprilia. And then we've got even more patents, rumours and spy shots from Suzuki, Enfield and Honda. But before we get started, a massive thanks to Quadlock for supporting the channel and making videos like this one possible. If you want to mount your phone on the bars of your bike and make use of all your navigation apps and media, then we reckon Quadlock are the best in the business. Here at MOTOBOB, we use them on pretty much all the press bikes we review, with a wide range of mounts available to suit all different styles of bike. And on top of that, they've also got some brilliant accessories like their vibration dampener to keep your phone safe, their wireless charging head so you don't need to plug in even on longer rides, and also they've even recently launched some action camera adapters so you can use your existing Quadlock mounts to capture and share your rides. Genuinely, we love using Quadlock products here at MOTOBOB, and so do check out the link down in the description below to find out more. So first up, let's take a look at those posts on Instagram from Marcus Flash, the fairly recently anointed CEO of BMW Motorrad about a year ago, and he was running a Q&A on Instagram from his rather swanky looking office. And look, while some of the answers did seem a little bit wooden,
today we see that the demand on the market is focused on,
he was fairly open about some of their plans for 2025, which is pretty rare for a major motorcycle manufacturer. So look, first up, somebody asked how many new BMW motorcycles will be coming in 2025, and his answer was 1, 2, 3, maybe about 10? So great news if you're a fan of new bikes. And the next question that he was asked was, what's your favorite bike that's coming in 2025? In response to this one, he actually posted an old picture of a GS80, I believe, competing in the Dakar Rally, and then he added the text at the bottom, why not do something like this again? Now this is almost certainly a reference to a bike that we've already seen out testing in 2024, which is a bit of a Scrambler-y interpretation on their R12 Retro platform, which will presumably be called the R12 GS. Now previously they did offer the Urban GS on the R9T platform, but this one looks a bit more seriously off-road focused, with a bigger 21-inch front wheel and generally a bit of a taller stance. For retro Scrambler fans, this is definitely a bike to look out for in 2025, and it'll make a great option if you like the idea of something like the Triumph Scrambler 1200, but maybe just fancy a bit of that distinctive boxer sound and feel. Definitely up my street, that one. But what else did he say in this sort of Instagram flurry? Well, one question asked whether there'd ever be a successor to their iconic C1 scooter. I'm not sure iconic for the right reasons, but you'll remember it if you've seen it, the scooter with the roof. And for this one, he actually replied, I've just recently visited the BMW museum and I liked it a lot. We're working on something. Now, one could assume that might be tied in to his answer for a question around future possible BMW electric motorcycles. This question was generally around the theme of whether BMW would make an electric motorcycle outside of the urban mobility segment, which, might not be the sexiest. It tends to be like scooters, lower power, lower range and stuff like that. And look, cast your mind back to their Vision DC Roadster concept from a couple of years back. That showed what a full-sized, fully fun electric motorcycle from Beamer might look like. But no, the response on this one is that the demand for electrics is firmly in the city, and so that's what they'll be focusing on in the immediate future. Presumably, they'll continue to grow the lineup around the existing CE04 and CE02, although based on that previous answer about the C1, we might get one with a roof. Now, one of the highlights of this year's EICMA in Milan has to be the BMW F450 GS concept, which shows what BMW's entry into this booming small to mid capacity adventure market might look like when it hits production, which they've confirmed for later this year. And this was the focus of another one of the questions, with BMW and other manufacturers, to be fair, having a bit of a history for showing off some really exciting looking concept bikes, only for the final production versions to end up looking a bit less sexy. So will the F450 GS production model look like the concept from EICMA? Well, good news on this one because his response says, "Because you all liked it so much, yes." Now, Goodwood Festival of Speed is one of the biggest events of the UK automotive calendar, and this year Marcus Flash actually went himself and rode at the event aboard their stunning new R20 concept, which he says was built in just 3 months. Effectively, it's a bigger capacity, more aggressive and sporty interpretation of their R18 cruiser platform, and we've actually recently just seen news from Cycle World that BMW have trademarked R20 not only in Germany but also now in the US. And that's a key detail because the trademark laws work slightly differently in the US in that you can't just squat on a name and protect your intellectual property. You actually have to intend to use it commercially in the not too distant future in order to have it granted. This one was easily one of my favorite bikes at Motorcycle Live in 2024, and so I can't wait to see what they come up with. And again, hopefully with this one, they don't water it down too much. On top of that, when he was asked what he'll be riding at Goodwood 2025, Marcus Flash replied, "A new concept that's still secret." And so it looks like there'll also be something else on the way, and so I'll definitely be trying to get down there to check it out. So like I say, lots of insight there from BMW, especially given that it was just a few Instagram posts. But there is plenty going on elsewhere in the industry, and first up, we've got the best spy shots yet of what looks like a Himalayan 650 from Royal Enfield. This one has been rumoured for absolutely ages, and I've got to admit, when they launched the 450 Himalayan, I kind of was thinking that this 650 version might never happen. You see, the air-cooled 650 twin and the new liquid-cooled 450 single aren't actually all that different in terms of performance, and so it had me wondering what would be the point in having both. But anyway, obviously Enfield sees some value in it because this one looks like it's pretty close to production, although perhaps it'll be a bit more road and adventure touring focused than the more off-roady 450 version, with a smaller 19-inch front wheel that should give slightly better road handling, and also I'd expect this one to come in quite a bit heavier. Still, pretty much all the other 650s are thoroughly pleasant to ride and also very affordable, and so more bikes in that lineup is always a good thing. In fact, also spied out testing, we've seen a new faired cafe racer type bike, which looks rather nice indeed. Interestingly though, cafe racers have kind of died out quite a bit recently. Bikes like the Triumph Thruxton, the BMW R9T Racer, Kawasaki's Z900 RS Cafe, have all been discontinued, presumably because they're not that comfy with the clip-on style bars, and also potentially the market just seems to prefer the more upright, regular, naked retros. But for some reason, Enfield have stuck at it with their Continental GT, and this one looks like a bit of a souped-up, more sporty version of that. Not only does it have that retro fairing, which I think looks really good and gives it a bit of that Thruxton vibe, but also, rumour has it that this one is powered by a slightly larger 750 twin, which should give it a bit more oomph. And I'd say, absolutely, another 5 or 10 horsepower over the 47 peak produced by the 650s would be very welcome, and so do keep your eyes peeled at EICMA later this year if this one sounds like your cup of tea. In fact, sticking with the EICMA theme, it also looks like Suzuki could have some pretty big announcements when it comes to November 2. You see, one thing that really struck me about their stand at the shows this year was just how few thoroughbred sports bikes they have left in their lineup, with pretty much only the 125 Gixxer still on sale, at least here in the UK. Contrast that with Kawasaki, for example. They've still got the ZX-10Rs, the ZX-6R, the ZX-4R, along with the Ninja 650 and the smaller variants of that, and the H2SX and Ninja 1100 SX Sports Tourers, and so it does leave Suzuki looking comparatively thin in that regard. Now, to be fair, lack of demand and also increasingly strict emissions regulations have killed off a lot of sports bikes in recent years, but thing is, MCN recently spoke to Toshihiro Suzuki, who's the president of Suzuki, and he said that while we cannot tell you the details, we think it's important to bring supersport motorcycles back to the market, adapting to the new regulations. We think it's important because it's Suzuki's heritage. And then MCN say, when they pushed him a little bit further, he said, please enjoy the next EICMA. So, does the motorcycle world need the return of the Gixxer lineup, and would any of you actually buy one if they did so? As always, I'd love to know what you think down in the comments. Now also at the sporty end of things, it looks like Honda might also have a mid-capacity inline 4 on the way with both CBR 400 R4 and CBR 500 R4 copyrighted in Japan. This would make for a direct competitor for Kawasaki's ZX4R, which is a revvy little agile sports bike that makes around 75 horsepower peak. I really enjoyed that one when I borrowed it for review earlier last year, just because you got that typical sports bike sound and feel. You know, it has the character of a bigger sports bike, but just with a more appropriate level of power for the road, so you can feel like you're giving it a bit of a thrashing without ending up doing ridiculous speeds. So another one from Honda I think would be great, although I'm keen to know how they sort of differentiate it from that existing Kawasaki offering. Generally, lately, they've been coming in with some really aggressive prices. Look at the CB750 Hornet, the CB1000 Hornet, and so maybe they'll make something that's a bit more affordable. Now next up, another one from Honda, and one of the bikes that I really like the look of for 2025 is their GB350S, which they've announced for the UK and Europe for this model year, after selling something pretty similar and a few variants of that in Asia for the past couple of years. It looks like decent value for money at just under $4,000. It's a really nice looking bike as well, but it hasn't been announced for the US market, and the widely held assumption in the motorcycle media is that at about 20 horsepower is just too small and low powered to generate any reasonable demand. So that could be exactly why Honda have recently trademarked GB500 in the States, with their 500 parallel twin, which they'd presumably use for a bike like this, making more than double the power. So yeah, definitely another one to keep an eye out for, and it could be another great little entry into the retro market. Now, as we mentioned earlier though, one category that's been absolutely booming lately is this affordable lightweight adventure segment, and for me, it makes absolute sense. Big capacity adventure bikes are certainly large, heavy, expensive, and quite techy, and so when I am out reviewing them, it does have me thinking, who's realistically got the pockets deep enough or the balls big enough to take this out riding properly off-road? That's probably why a whole host of more manageable alternatives have been hitting the market over the past year or two, like the Himalayan 450, the CF Moto 450 MT, the new KTM 390 Adventure R, which they're set to announce the full details of in a week or two, and of course, that tasty looking BMW F450 GS that we looked at earlier. Another one though could be on the way very soon, and this time from Aprilia, who, to be fair, already know how to make a really good adventure bike in the form of the Touareg 660, and already have a great little 450 engine in the form of their parallel twin that they use in the RS457 sports bike and the new Tuono 457 Naked. These leaked pictures on Bike Wally show a marriage of the two with what's suspected to be a Touareg 457, and I reckon this one could be a really good bike. That engine is a little peach. I really enjoyed it when I borrowed the RS, and it's got a great sound and feel to it with the 270-degree crank, and so it'd be perfectly suited to this sort of bike as well. Plus, Aprilia definitely know what they're doing when it comes to making really good-looking bikes, and so this could be something a little more visually appealing than some of the existing options. Next up though, we've got Triumph. Now recently I rode the new Speed Twin 900 on the press launch, which has had a major overhaul for 2025 with a much more sporty personality and also some more modern tech, with some new piggyback shocks from Marzocchi, an upside-down fork, a radial 4-pot front brake caliper, lean-sensitive rider aids, and a digital dash which opens up the option to fit their phone connectivity accessory, and that'll give you nav and media and stuff like that through the switchgear and dash. They also tweaked the styling, which I think looks great too, and so it wouldn't be a big surprise if some of these updates rolled out to other similar bikes in the Bonneville lineup. Like, for example, the Scrambler 900, formerly known as the Street Scrambler, and I have seen some spy shots knocking around that suggest this will absolutely be the case. So it gets the same hybrid dash, the same upgrade to an upside-down fork, and also the better front brakes too. All of these things definitely made for a big improvement, I'd say, on the Speed Twin, and so I'd say they'll be welcome here on the Scrambler version too. But perhaps more exciting than that would be the spy shots I've recently seen of a larger capacity Trident 660. You see, the 660 triple lineup consists at the moment of the Trident Naked, the Tiger Sport Tourer, and the Daytona Sports Bike, and just a couple of months back, they unveiled an 800 version of that Tiger Sport with better brakes, adjustable suspension, a bit more wind protection, and of course, more power on tap with around 115 horsepower as opposed to the 80 of the 660. Surely then, they'll be creating more 800 variants, and it looks like the Trident is going to be the next on the list, with this bike spied out testing and getting a lot of the same changes, and I think this one could be really very popular. I mean, to be fair, the 660 has already sold very well indeed, but I think that 80 horsepower figure puts it in the sort of middleweight, affordable, slightly beginner-friendly segment, and so more experienced riders might find themselves wanting a bit more pep. I'd say 115 horsepower should certainly do the trick, although it does seem like it would make for a very similar bike to the existing Street Triple 765R. That one is of course also a triple, also in the same ballpark in terms of capacity and power, and at just over 10 grand, I'd be very surprised if the price wasn't similar too. So that's quite an interesting situation. Will the Street Triple R, for example, get dropped? Or will this potential Trident 800 be a bit more easygoing and comfortable and different enough to justify having both in the lineup? I guess only time will tell, but the real question that most of you are probably thinking about is whether this means that Triumph will go a step further and create an 800 version of that Daytona 660. So far, I've got absolutely no indication that that's the case. There's no patents, no rumors, no spy shots, nothing like that, but it would follow an existing pattern. They launched the Trident 660, the Tiger Sport 660, and then the Daytona 660, and now it looks like they're launching, well, the Tiger Sport 800, potentially a Trident 800, and so logically that would come next. Will it happen? Well, I'd love to know what you think down in the comments. And also, of all the bikes on this list, I'd love to know as well which one you'd be most looking forward to. In case you haven't seen it already as well, I'll stick my full walk around of that Tiger Sport 800 on the screen now, so you can give it a click and give it a watch. Do hit subscribe if you want to see more of the latest motorcycle news like this right here on MOTOBOB. A massive thanks for watching today, and we'll see you in the next video.